What's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 36 of Feel the Heat. I am going to try and mirror what Ethan attempted on Five on the Floor, which is to be a little bit positive during this pod. I feel like we're just not negative Nancy's, Mr. Michael.
So then here, I'll go be the other side. You said what pod episode is this? 36?
Yeah.
That sounds like too many wins for the Heat to get this season.
No, we're not these people. There's enough shows trending in this direction. Okay, let's try to stand out a little
every
bit.
show?
I mean, every show.
I
didn't want a blanket statement because maybe there's like one or two hidden gems out there.
We're in the pits. We're in the pits right now.
I actually just think we're living reality, and that's just what it is.
Well, reality currently is in the pits. And I am not saying that this Heat team is going to fold and become irrelevant and that this season is a waste, but this season became the exact thing that you and I feared the most in our last recording, which was injuries.
Yep. And since our last episode, I think we have lost 3 and won 1, if my math is correct, which is actually, you should probably double check that given my math skills. But yeah, things have not gone so well. If you want to, I guess, kick us off on what we've seen so far before we just get into the why and what's next.
I mean, the big issue, though, is what we haven't seen. That's just is what it is. There's no way around it. There's nothing else that is really pressing that much, right? Like we can talk about the performances of the players that are out there for sure. And we will. And we absolutely should dive into. We should talk about Spo's lineup decisions, which have been incredibly questionable as of late. We can talk about certain players trending up and other players trending down, and whether certain players should come into the starting lineup, which I disagree with. I just think we talked about it last week, and we said that the one thing that scared both of us most about this season, and the one thing that could really derail us, was injury. And there are a few people that are going to say, oh, well, I knew that this team was old and they were going to get injured. You can say that, but come on. Like, that wasn't the expectation coming into the season. I thought that they would battle a few games here or there. I mean, Bam is out. What was it? 4 to 6 weeks, I think, is the latest one that came out.
So it's 4 to 6 weeks from the surgery, which was yesterday. And
which makes it 7 weeks.
It's not probably going to be. Yeah, it's going to be a little longer, according to some 5 Reasons sources. So I will point out, however, since you brought up Bam, if people are blaming the age of this team, Bam is one of your youngest guys. Yeah,
Bam is one of the youngest guys. So obviously the age isn't why this is happening. And a lot of people say, oh, well, Kyle Lowry's this age, so he's going to miss a ton of games. Kyle Lowry's not the one missing games either. And I am not blaming these players for missing games. It happens. If you get hurt, you can't fight it. And I think your best move for yourself and for the team is to get whatever it is fixed and sit out. You have to. It's just, you can't go this long without Bam. And we're entering a part of the season where it's an easier part of the schedule, supposedly, right? Just by records and everything. I'm not super confident that they're going to win a lot of these games. And these were the games that you needed to secure with your team, right? Because you're going to have those games against the better opponents where it's kind of 50-50 on if you're going to win. But if you don't win these games now, then you have to win all the games later, and it puts you in a tough spot. And what's going to end up happening is similar to what happened last season. They went through that big lull in the middle of the season where they faced COVID and injuries, and then the pressure was on for all of those last games. And I think, didn't we miss the 5 seed? I think it was by 1 game.
It was close, something like that.
It was something like that, right? Like, it was maybe 1 or 2 games, just anything during that stretch where everyone was out that a couple games could have turned it around for you. This is the situation that they're getting themselves into again. And that is no fault of the Heat program or any of these things. But if that's happening and you don't have the depth or the bench or the backups to come in and still win these winnable games, then this is what happens. And now you're starting to look at a season that is beginning to unravel. A lot more things are coming into question. And yeah, when the full team comes back, I have no doubt that they're going to compete at the same level that they did at the start of the season. The worry is, how long are you going to have that team together?
For me, honestly, I'm just at the point where it kind of is what it is. And I tweeted this out earlier. You have Bam and Jimmy injured. Those are your 2 biggest stars. You have a shooter in a slump, Duncan, who was showing
not lately.
was showing signs, but I personally, and I'm not someone giving up on him yet. I'm just not bought into the theory that he's back for good. I need to see a little bit more out of him. And then you have Kyle, which we're going to get into a little bit later because I have my own thoughts on this that don't really, as usual, seem to align with the rest of Heat Twitter. But at this point, yes, losses like the one against Memphis shouldn't happen. The Grizzlies didn't have Ja. We completely collapsed. I think the closest we got was like a 6-point deficit, and then it was a turnover or 3 and game over. We were falling behind the entire rest of the game. I don't know. Right now, we just need to stay afloat until the team gets healthy, and that's really all I can ask for. It is still early in the season. We are still built for the playoffs. The problem, though, is getting that seeding, especially with the rest of the East being as strong and competitive as it is.
Yep.
I don't know what's going to happen. Right now, I am not in panic mode, nor am I in burn the whole season down mode. I am just taking it for what it is. And there are things that I think we need to work on. And a lot of it is Spo, which I think we'll get into later as well. But it has been a bleak couple of days. And now we're facing the Bucks again tomorrow night.
Well, real quick, do you want to know what the difference is between the Heat, who are currently the 4th seed, and being down at the 10th seed? Do you want to know what that game separation is?
I think I would like to know, but I'm a little scared.
It's 1 game.
Yep, scared. Just like I said.
Game. Now, It is early in the season, so it's a lot closer now than it's going to be later. Schedules still haven't unraveled completely. Some teams have started off really easy schedules. Other teams have had it kind of hard. Some teams have faced injuries. Other teams haven't. We're 1 game out from the 10th seed. If we hit a skid, they're going to have to work their way back up into the playoffs. If they're working their way back up into the playoffs, you could go back into the playoffs as the 5th or 6th seed, which then puts you at a spot where getting out of the second round is going to be incredibly difficult.
And this is where what I was saying earlier in the season comes into play, because I am never trying to say that the regular season is more important. But what happens in the regular season, especially when you consider kind of the competitors at the top of the East right now, it matters. There's a huge difference between sitting pretty at 2, 3, even maybe 4, and feeling secure and confident, and where we're at now, even though it is early, and not knowing if we're even going to make the play in. Again, I have not hit kind of the panic button, but it is just something to consider of, there's no more skating by. Every win needs to at least be fought for. And I think that was my problem, at least with the Memphis loss, is just that if we were going to win one, it should have been that one, considering the personnel. I'm not saying that they don't have some solid role players, but
no, and they've been playing well in the 5 games since Ja's been out.
Everything I saw from that game, I hated. And it's concerning. The good news is I think everyone is concerned on that team. I don't think for a second any of those guys are sitting there saying, oh, we're the Miami Heat, we'll be fine, or it was just 1 game. I think even the fact that Spo called himself out shows that there's a level of awareness. So I'm just going to wait and see what happens. I'm not going to be unrealistic and say, oh, suddenly we're going to turn it around and we're going to be at the top of the East. But I also think that, if we're able to get and stay at like 500 while Bam is out, and I don't know how long Jimmy's going to be out for. Jimmy is out, I believe, tomorrow. So is Markieff. And I think Caleb Martin now is questionable. So every day there's something new. And I think we just have to take it 1 game at a time.
So this isn't on your rundown. I really didn't think about it until right now, but I think it is worth discussing. How do you feel about rest days? Or how do you feel about basically the Kawhi days, right? Every 6th or 7th game, just take a rest, man. Just sit it out, find a way to stay healthy. And the other ones just don't come into this one. How do you feel about them in general? And then let's talk about it specifically with the Heat.
I don't like it. And it's hard for me to say this because while I don't like them, I do understand them. I think that certain guys like Jimmy or maybe Kyle even could benefit from that down the stretch. And I think that's my only kind of caveat there, where if it is getting close to playoff time and it's become clear that, the seeding is almost set and they're going to really need everyone to go, when the playoffs start, then maybe. But as a general rule, and in theory, I don't know, you're professional athletes. This is what you do for a living. If you are resting, what does that say to your teammates? I don't know. It doesn't rub me the right way.
So I've said it plenty of times on this podcast. If you've ever watched me on anything else Heat wise, you've heard me say it then too. The regular season to me isn't all that important. And I think that was something I realized big time, especially when the big three were in Miami. And it was a time where every once in a while, you just had a throwaway game. You just kind of had a throwaway game to stay healthy and figure it out at different times. I don't mind rest days. I didn't mind them then. And I actually think they should start utilizing them now. And that's kind of counterintuitive with what I was saying, where it was like, well, you got to win the games that you have in front of you because you're going to lose a lot of these because of the injuries.
There's no winning if people are resting.
That's the thing.
None.
You have to find
Zero
a way
chance.
you have to find a way to stagger these things.
There's no way. This roster is not, I'm sorry, it's not good enough. So then here's not deep enough.
If this roster is not good enough to survive against the bottom tier teams, missing only one of their superstars, then this team, in my opinion, is not ready to compete for a championship.
I think I agree with you, but keep in mind, we should have won the game. Kyle and Duncan were playing, but if you're saying like rest who, Kyle, Bam, and Jimmy?
No. I'm not saying rest all three of them in one game.
Okay, staggering.
No, I'm saying you're staggering this, right? Again, and I'm taking this straight out of Big Three Heat days. I remember plenty of games where it was LeBron in a suit, and then Bosh hit a game-winning three-pointer, and he was hype on the bench, and it was what it was, and then we came back and we fought the other ones, and then Wade got his rest days. I feel like Bosh didn't get too many, but he got his here or there. What I'm saying is, when you're playing a lower-level Eastern Conference team, if you're playing the Pistons or the Magic, you should be able to sit one of Kyle, Jimmy, or Bam and still win that game.
I agree that you should be able to. I don't think we can.
So then that, in my opinion, just shows that this team isn't ready to compete at the highest level.
Oh, but of course, did you really think we were getting the title this year? Because I didn't.
I thought we had a chance to compete for it. Yeah. I think when these guys are healthy, if people play up to the expectations that we had for them, I see them in that conversation. And I believe, let's just say we play the Magic, right? If you sit Jimmy Butler in a game against the Magic and you have, Bam, Tyler, Duncan, Kyle, Strus, Dedmon, Markeith, PJ, if you have those guys out there, you should be able to beat that Magic team.
Yeah, on paper, sure.
I expect them to in that situation.
I don't know. That's just not Miami Heat basketball to me. Miami Heat basketball to me, unfortunately, is injuries. It's wild cards of Tyler suddenly having a bad year or Duncan forgetting how to shoot.
But that's what it's become now. Again, look, I hate to keep.
But we're living in the now.
Right, but I hate to keep referencing those days, but it didn't happen much in the Big Three era.
But we're not in the Big Three.
Bosh got hurt in the playoffs a couple times, which was incredibly unfortunate. But that's
what I think is one of the many, but one of the bigger differences, I think, the lens that I look through and the good majority, it's always a comparison game, whether it's, well, Tyler did this in the bubble or last year, Duncan, we are not in the bubble. This isn't last year. We are here and now. This isn't Big Three era either. Right now, the Heat are made up of a team that unfortunately is riddled with injuries. Honestly, I'm not surprised about Jimmy. It's awful and I wish it wasn't happening. None of this shocks me. Jimmy is injury prone. The Bam thing came out of nowhere,
but that's because of the way Jimmy plays.
I'm not saying the why of it. I'm just telling you that's fact. So to me, this is just what the team is. And that was part of the reason why, even when we were at the top of the East, I made comments here and there of like, yeah, we're taking it all. That was, not actually what I would see this team doing by the end of it, unless some changes are made. Now, if Depot comes back, that's something else. If we suddenly are able to stay healthy, maybe we're getting all the injuries out of the way early. I don't know. But for me, like the shock and the awe and the kind of dramatics that everyone else is going through, I'm not feeling that because unfortunately, this is just par for the course.
I agree with not being surprised at the injuries. I agree with not being surprised that if you're down Bam and Jimmy, you have little to no shot of winning basically any basketball games. I genuinely do think, though, that this team should start looking at rest games for certain guys when they have the team back and healthy. I think that would help. That's just my personal belief. And maybe it doesn't. And here's the thing. No one is going to sit Jimmy Butler if he is healthy.
No,
that's just
and
the
honestly,
way he is.
That's just not the Miami Heat way for such a grinded out kind of ball club.
Right, but it was and it worked.
But how long? Like, why are you so stuck in the past? This is a completely new era. That, like, to me, comparing that doesn't even make sense. The big three may as well have been the big three in, I don't know, Dallas. Because there's no difference.
Because you found a way to keep some of these older guys healthy. I think you found a way to. And again,
but the game has changed. The organization has changed.
But this isn't like an isolated incident. Like this team with the players that we've had for multiple years now, these are the things that we've faced.
Oh, I know. That's why it's synonymous with Miami Heat basketball.
Jimmy's been out for certain lengths of times. Bam's knees have had his issues here or there. We've had these things come up. Well, I hope it doesn't happen. I really hope it doesn't happen. But would either of us be shocked if Kyle is out like a week or so?
No, but that's exactly my point. None of this is shocking.
None of this is shocking, which is why I'm saying, obviously what you're doing isn't helping to stop these things. And sure, they can get hurt anyways. But I think, why not try it? And then you can give guys that don't get a lot of minutes a chance to really come up and see what they have in a game against the Pistons. You can start working on some of these lineups. You can start seeing what's going on.
See, actually,
I think it's an option.
I think that makes it worse. And I think the reason why guys are struggling who shouldn't necessarily be struggling is because of the fact that Jimmy's not in and Bam isn't in. We're jumping around now, but it is what it is. The reason that I don't actually blame Kyle for anything right now is that Kyle came into a completely new team for him. The rest of this team, not everyone, but some of it had already been playing together. He comes in as a guy who primarily will be focused on two things. One, making other guys better. So Jimmy, Bam, Tyler, even Duncan. And two is kind of another voice in the locker room on top of Jimmy, who's a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more firm to get guys like Bam and Tyler going. All of a sudden, Kyle's out, one, then he comes back. Jimmy's out, Bam's out, Duncan can't shoot, and Tyler's firing off, but kind of on his own and creating his own shots. So Duncan is coming into this new situation, and now, again, he has to pivot. He called himself out again the other night and said, I guess I need to shoot more and figure out my new role while guys are sitting out, and that's literally exactly what's happening. So for me, do I want more from Kyle? Sure. But at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know. To me, it's just to be expected. He comes in thinking one thing and everything is now suddenly changing on him. I think it's going to take time. I think that people need to be patient. And I see that kind of working against a lot of the other players too, if the likes of Jimmy or Bam or even Kyle go out. I don't think this team can function properly as a unit unless they are a unit. I just don't think they can win games if they're not constructed almost exactly like they're intended to be.
Yeah, I just think when they are out there as they were constructed, we've seen them win those games already. And that's why I'm not worried about them figuring out when they're back together.
That's why I just don't think we should be resting though, because I don't think.
No, but that's my thing. When we have Kyle, Jimmy, and Bam, the three of them together, in my opinion, you don't need to work on the three of them together. When the three of them are together, they figure out a way to make it work and it's fine.
But I'm saying, I think the only way the other guys play well is if that's happening. I don't think that this team functions at all without a full roster or an almost full roster.
Then you don't have a good enough roster.
I agree.
Like, I just think, here's my thing.
I don't think we're deep enough at all. And I don't think that Spo's rotations are helping.
They're not, and we'll have an entire segment to talk about that. But the thing with Kyle specifically is we're all very quick to call out everyone else for everything. And I feel like Kyle just recently has begun to get some of that directed his way, some of the blame. I think it needed to just start happening sooner. And I've said it here. The shooting splits weren't great. And I get it. He's learning to play with different guys.
Y'all
and he's like,
don't
now
have
that I'm
any patience.
No,
it's
that's
like
not what
you
I'm
sign
saying.
a guy
That's
and
not-
suddenly he should know what to do right away.
No, what I'm saying is for a guy that is 35 years old who has been in the NBA for a long time, he should know going into a game, Jimmy and Bam are out. I need to take a larger role and shoot more shots.
I think he's trying. I think he's
He
aware
shot
of that.
9 shots against the Grizzlies.
That's okay. I nothing went well in the Grizzlies game. I don't. Everyone sucked.
He
Literally
shot
everyone.
12 against Milwaukee.
I don't know if I necessarily need that much more from him.
I want more shot attempts from him. This is all I'm saying. For me, I don't blame Kyle. Kyle's going to figure it out. He's going to be fine, and he's a crucial part to making this offense work because even when his shooting is off, the passing is fantastic. But I need his mentality to enter a more attack mode. What we're asking Bam to do when we're saying, Bam, look at the basket, be aggressive, find your shot. I need Kyle to start doing that more. I need him to realize, listen, I can run this play and we can see if it works and maybe Duncan makes a 3, or I can just go in there and try to figure out something myself because I'm the veteran here.
And
I'm
I
the
think
leader
that's
here.
what's probably going to happen, especially.
And I think that's what needs to have been happening already. And that is where my beef is with him. Look, his shot is starting to come back. It's still not great, but it's starting to come back. I'm not expecting him to be the same exact player he was in his prime in Toronto. But if you are expecting
that was a completely different system.
But if you are expecting to take, but I'm saying like from an aggressiveness and the stats standpoint.
I think he is being aggressive. I just don't think he's being aggressive in the way that right now with a depleted roster he needs to be.
I think he has a lot of those moments. Like, you know how many times, and I know you know this, the amount of times that Jimmy has gone to the basket and he's standing underneath it and he's looking for a pass regardless of what's going on around him, right? Those couple of Ben Simmons moments he has. Kyle does that too. And I don't want Kyle to do that anymore. I don't need Kyle to do that right now. I don't need you to try to find Gabe Vincent for a 3 or Duncan for a 3 or Devin on a cut. I need you to start making some of these things happen for yourself. And then those guys will be more open because the defense knows if they don't cover you, you will burn them for it. So that is all I'm saying.
No, I agree with that. To me, it's just
some of the flat performances I put on him because, again, I understand he's new to the system, but he is the 35-year-old. He is the veteran. He's, aside from Udonis Haslem,
he's the veteran that came in for a completely different reason and now has to adjust.
But he should have known to adjust already. That's what I would have expected.
But you don't know what the coaching staff has been telling him. Just like we have no idea why Spo literally did not play Max Strus until like 2.5 seconds were left in the nothing that happened made sense.
This is where you and I shift. I see it as very equal parts player, coach, blame for all of this. And I even probably lean a little bit more towards players because there are too many players on this team that are underwhelming right now. You are on the opposite side of that, where you're giving much more to Spo and Spo specifically.
Coach leads. He's the leader.
I understand that, but the players on the court still have to do their jobs on the court, and the coach can put you in the best spot possible.
Sure, but if you're literally not in the game, Max Strus can't shoot if he's not playing.
Okay, I get it. Max Strus should have played more minutes, but we're acting like, man, if Max Strus is in that game,
it's not about that. It's
totally
a constant problem, and it's getting worse. The more injuries that go out, he can't adjust.
I agree with you that the lineups are questionable, and Spo deserves a good amount of blame. I disagree with the percentages that you're giving, but Spo specifically makes you irate when it comes to some of these lineups. So I'm just gonna kind of let you go off on that because
he doesn't. Honestly, it's not even that he makes me irate. Because I've said this for years. It's been honestly 5 to 7 to 10 years of me saying the exact same thing.
I mean, this has been my entire life as a Spo fan.
It's his one downfall. And I said this on 5 of the 4 earlier. Spo is a very intentional, methodical coach, and that's what makes him great, and that's what makes him elite. He also is great at adjusting when he has some time to think about it. For example, between game 2 and 3 of a playoff series, The problem is in the moment when something goes awry, when there's so-called control chaos around him, it's panic mode. And sometimes his decisions are questionable. And then
His
on top of that,
his in-game adjustments.
and then
have
he
never
sticks
been great.
through them. He gets stubborn and he sticks through them. It's not working. And he decides, no, they're going to figure out a way. Do they sometimes figure out a way? Absolutely. And some players do need that. The problem is you can't treat every player the same. If something's not working for someone, sometimes that player needs to be yanked, or that player needs to be put into another role.
Sure.
And it's just no secret anymore that I feel this way. I've literally been saying this for years. He doesn't make me irate. I'm not blaming a loss on him, but I do think that it's something that people need to start discussing more. And if the man himself is even saying he has to figure something out and get more creative and take a better look, I think that should be saying something, because I don't feel like Spo is as transparent as he has been lately usually. And I think at this point he just knows that, I mean, there's nothing to hide at this point. This team is not in any position to pretend things are going well. I'm not saying that it's a lost season, but things need to be fixed and need to be figured out until Bam gets back. Again, we don't know how long Jimmy will be out and if he'll get hurt again. There's just some questionable things happening across the board.
Yeah, I just think so. Here's my thing. It's with Spo falls in love with certain players. Like he gets very obsessed with certain players at times, and he does not back off of them. And currently one of those players is Caleb Martin, and he is not wavering off of Caleb Martin.
Caleb Martin had
all.
The second most minutes against Memphis.
Right.
After Kyle.
It was weird when the fourth quarter seemed like, okay, I mean, you can still get a couple runs, Tyler. And there weren't the guys out there that you wanted to put those runs together. It felt like a belly up, like, it is what it is, on to the next one kind of thing. I don't know what to make of this team from Spo's point of view, though, because these players are very up and down across the board. Right.
They are, except that gets made worse when things aren't consistent on the coaching side.
Okay. But then here's the thing, because then it's kind of contradictory, because you're saying
no, it's a catch-22. Absolutely. One is doing worse to the other and vice versa.
Because he's stubborn if he sticks with the guy that's struggling the entire time. But then if he doesn't stick with him, he's struggling because he doesn't play. So this is why I say I should more blame towards the players, because there is no right solution here for Spoelstra. He can
There's a wrong one though.
What?
Tyler was playing great and he doesn't see the floor.
Okay, yeah, sure. The Tyler Hero one.
I agree with you. There are no necessarily right decisions. There are wrong ones to make, and a lot of wrong ones were made. Sure. Specifically against Memphis.
But like Max Strus versus Caleb Martin versus Gabe Vincent, which one of those guys you're going to play more minutes in?
If we're getting crushed offensively, I feel like at that point, your mentality shifts from great defense, which is why I think he's favoring Caleb and Gabe, and then needs to switch to, we need to make some shots, especially you're not even giving Duncan the green light, and actually I was going to say this too, before you brought this up. Duncan was Spo's guy. I don't think it's a secret anymore that he was the reason that Duncan got the contract that he got, a good part of it anyway. So suddenly you're pushing for this guy to stick around and be paid, but then you're not going to play him much in the fourth, if even at all. Something's not adding up there for me.
I think that was always kind of planned, but they're already kind of weird with that though, because Tyler Hero is playing great, and I really don't think their plan is to insert Tyler Hero into the starting lineup.
I don't see that either. And
so I think that's just part of their thought process. That's just the way he does things.
But you don't have Duncan or Strusen. Where is your?
I agree with that in the Grizzlies game. I agree with that in the Grizzlies game.
Well, that's what I'm talking about specifically right now. I saw the most glaring problem with Spo's decisions in the Grizzlies game.
That Grizzlies game is this magnification of everything going wrong, because not only were the coaching decisions questionable and certain ones egregious, the players were also just a pile of hot booty.
Oh, absolutely. So, except for Tyler, absolutely.
Yeah. So what can we do in this situation, right?
Nothing.
It's
I honestly, to me, it's game by game. Nothing. You look at it, you point out the flaws, you move on.
right. It's die by option A, die by option B. I'm sorry, there is no option C. That is the current situation he's in. And that is why I am not destroying him. Especially
I'm not
for
destroying him either. I'm calling it like it is.
But that's why I'm not blaming him more than the players again, because there's a lot of underwhelming things that are happening out there that there's nothing he can do about it. That's just how it is. So
I disagree. I think you need to figure it out. Unfortunately, you have been dealt the cards that you've been dealt. And he even said he needed to figure it out. So I think it's pretty clear that everyone understands that at this point.
Right. And again, it's kind of weird here because it's like, okay, it's hard to blame Kyle because he's new to the system and he's not doing all this stuff. But then why doesn't Spoelstra know exactly what lineups he wants to run when he loses Jimmy Butler mid-game and the game plan was not calling for any of these other players to fill in those minutes? You know what I'm saying?
Because I think that's apples and oranges.
I personally, I don't think so, because I think both of them are learning to deal with things that they're not dealing with. So I'm with you there.
Spo does deal with this. Jimmy goes out all the time. No one is surprised by this.
Bam, Jimmy and Bam both out at the same time. That doesn't happen all the time.
I mean, yeah, players go out with injuries all the time.
Right, but I'm saying both of them at the same time and having to fill in these minutes.
You can't just give him an excuse of like, oh, it rained today, or like, oh, your tire was a little underinflated. Like, that's life.
Okay, fine. Then I'm with you. Then I'm not giving him that excuse, and then I'm not giving Kyle the excuse.
That's
I'm saying,
too.
Kyle, you gotta nut the F up, bro, because I need more out of the guy we paid a crap ton of money to.
I also said I need more. I'm just not. I feel like he will give us more, and there's logical reasoning behind why.
And I feel like Spo will figure them out. But I think right now both of them deserve to eat a big old plate of disappointment, because that's what they've been serving us for a while. I have
more faith in Kyle figuring it out than Spo fixing this one problem, to be honest. Which
is
fine
issue?
Because we don't necessarily need him to be an elite coach.
Man, and that I don't know, because the lineups at the beginning of the season I was very happy with. He was going deeper into the bench than he normally did. And
everyone was fine in the beginning of the season. You have to learn how to coach when you're down bad.
Right,
not
and
when
Kyle
you're
has to learn to play when you're down bad. So
I agree. I'm saying I have more faith that he'll do that, is all I'm saying.
I just think we need everybody to turn it around at this point. And I don't know who it begins with outside of literally everyone. And to me,
honestly, if we're being 100, I think this is just how things are going to go until at least Jimmy comes back, and then Jam. I'm just making them one player now. Until Jam comes back. Jimmy and Bam.
Look, this is the one question I want to ask you. We have other stuff we want to cover, and this is the last kind of thing I want to ask you about this one. Seeing the way they've played and seeing the way it's happened, who do you think is the more important player on this team? And you have to pick one. You can't pick both. You can't pick neither. Jimmy Butler
to this team.
More important to this team's success, right? So more important to this team. Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo?
So this team as currently constructed, I think it's Bam. I don't think he's the better player, and I don't think he should be the more important player. I think this team, to me, it makes no sense that that's the case, but I think it is.
I agree with you. Look, in the games that the Heat have played since Bam has been out, they were rebounded by the Cavs 46-28. When they played the Pacers, they were out rebounded by the Pacers.
I mean, we're tiny.
39-38.
We're barely big with Bam.
When they played the Bucks, they were out rebounded 57-39.
Which is something Alex brought up. Yeah,
and when we played the Grizzlies, we were out rebounded 47-36. A team that was at one point, I think, like 10 games into the season almost, the number one rebounding team in the league.
Yep.
Which I think was, looking back now, I mean, overinflated by the fact that our defense was playing so well that teams were missing a lot of shots. So it just gave us more opportunities. Apparently, this team cannot rebound without Bam. I think part of that gets fixed when Markieff comes back.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Jokic being a bitch. Part of that gets fixed when Markieff comes back. But man, look, we're down bad, and it's easy right now. I think it's easy right now to say that Bam is a more important player. So that's the only reason why I'm kind of fighting it in my head.
No, I mean, I think he shouldn't be, but I think he is.
But I agree with you. I think the way this team is currently constructed, there's no other size I can really depend on more. Dedmon has been playing well in the games that he's had to make up for it. I mean, he had 13 rebounds twice.
He also, I think, Milwaukee, only was given like 20 minutes of playing time, though.
20, well, he had 4 fouls against Memphis, so that was part of it. He's played well in the limited minutes he's been in, Dedmon. But again, what worries me is if you're playing Dedmon a lot of these extended minutes, you might lose Dedmon later in the season.
Yep.
Because he's going to be tired and he's not used to this. And he's in great shape. And shout out to Heapy. I love the mechanic. The dude is a grinder. Way to go. I don't want to play him this much. I don't. No. We need to find something else, whether that's Omer getting minutes or just figuring it out when Markieff comes back. Somebody needs to start taking some of these minutes.
PJ at the 5 might work for some opponents, but it definitely wasn't working against Steven Adams.
I mean, that's kind of a tough ask. I mean,
well, no, I'm not blaming PJ. I'm just saying like that could be an option against certain teams. It's just, unfortunately, that was not going to work.
That's a brawler of a dude. So
absolutely.
I mean, look, against the Cavaliers, Yurt played 4 minutes. He played more minutes every game after that, right? He played 19 against the Pacers, 23 against the Bucks. He had, and I'm probably talking away from my mic, so I'm probably a lot quieter now. He had 17 against the Grizzlies. It's just, they need to find a way to balance these things out. I don't think they're ready for it. I don't think anybody, players to coach, know exactly how to handle this. And the worst part is there is no light at the end of the tunnel.
No.
There's
just time.
There's no guaranteed, like, we'll get them back in 2 games, or
there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We just don't know how long it'll take.
Right. That's what I'm saying. There's no like obvious light at the end of the tunnel. Like eventually the tunnel ends.
Yep. We just
don't know how long we'll be in the tunnel. And if the tunnel is losing to teams like the Grizzlies when they don't have Ja, and losing to the Bucks by a good amount, and beating the Pacers only because Duncan Robinson decides to scream a giant F you to the entirety of Heat Twitter, and losing to the Cavs, who I don't care how well they're playing, it's the freaking Cavaliers. No, it's Cavs. Don't give me that face.
Yeah, but I do think people have a point. Twitter is very set on these teams that regardless of what year it is, they just have to be trash. And they are not great. They're not a top team, but let's also not pretend like they don't have some talent sprinkled in there.
Oh, they have
y'all are very one-track minded. Like you're stuck in the big 3.
Man, you are.
No, I'm sorry. You're like this. It's big 3 time. Everything's about the big 3.
I've been trying to be nice. We can get fiery.
That's fine. I'm calling it like it is. You literally, I think, brought up the big 3 in every episode. I'm not going to
do it because definitely not. Okay.
And
you don't like talking about it because to you, that's the beginning of your Heat fandom.
That's not true at all. Remember when I said that I was a Wade fan when I was in 5th grade? Then we went on from there. We can give my origin story again if you'd like.
See how you're getting fired now?
No, I'm just letting you know.
You're acting like we should not be losing.
I agree. I'm just saying that you can also call out individual talent on another team, even if they're in Cleveland.
The Cavs are playing well. They should not beat us by 26.
I agree. We are on the same side. So
that is my fight, and it's the Cavs. And the fact that it's the Cavs makes it doubly upset because, yes, part of it is I will always see the Cavs as a trash organization.
Exactly. Thank you. You've
proven my point. Always see the Cavs as a trash organization when they do not have a player in the name of LeBron James. And I will die on that hill. And so will a lot of people on Heat Twitter. Okay.
You go with Heat Twitter. That's a great group to associate with.
I will associate myself with them right now, especially now that Duncan Robinson is starting to bounce back. No, the Cavs, they're a trash organization.
Okay, this isn't why we're now arguing about the friggin' Cavaliers.
Well, you started it.
No.
Okay. What else do you do you want to talk about culture player of the week in this?
I would like to.
My culture player of the week is Eric Spoelstra.
Why?
It's not actually. I'll let you go with yours.
I'm going with Tyler.
Oof.
And the only reason I'm going,
Deep in that bag.
The only reason I'm going with, well, obviously Tyler's been doing well, but the reason I'm saying that is because I'm proud of Tyler for not letting kind of the discombobulation around him really affect his game. He's had some here and there off moments or off nights, but I think overall he's been pretty consistent. And I think that last year And obviously it's not the same thing, right? Because you're being talked about in trades, and trade rumors is a little bit different than your teammates going down. But still, we saw him be a little bit kind of swayed by what was happening around him last year. And I think that this year he's done a really good job of tuning that out. So he's my culture player of the week.
All right. I'm going to double shout out Heat Beat on this one then, because I am giving it to the mechanic.
Oh.
And I'm doing that because I was convinced that the biggest reason why Dedmon wouldn't be able to play too many extended minutes was because he would find himself in foul trouble. Unfortunately, that was the case in the game against the Grizzlies, but that was not the case in the other games that were played. Now, when the leads are the way they are, it tends to make foul trouble not too big of a deal either.
Also his moving screens.
But I got to give him credit for coming in and filling in that role decently. He is never going to be Bam Adebayo, but he has done more than enough that should be able to be good enough to let the rest of the team work hard enough to win some of these games, or at least make them more respectable. I don't think Dedmon is at all to blame for what's been happening lately. Again, he's not Bam Adebayo, but he's never going to be. He is Dwayne Dedmon. He has played well in the minutes that he's had. And to Dedmon, who has had to fill in at this time of deep, deep sorrow for the entirety of Heat Nation, hats off to you, sir. I would let you fix my car anytime. So
I like it. Looking at the Heat Twitter segment, I think we've gone over everything, and really
except for one thing.
Well, but that I was going to say should have probably been around the league anyway, so it's a good transition.
Oh, I don't think we're thinking of the same thing.
Oh,
I'm talking about heroes starting. We don't have to dive too deeply into it.
I didn't even put that on the rundown. You can go ahead.
We can make it real quick. No, I do not want Tyler Hero in the starting lineup. I think Tyler Hero is playing amazingly coming off the bench. He's getting the same amount of minutes. And I understand that some people are saying, well, but when Tyler comes in, they're at a deficit. Perfect. Because that is Tyler's job. Shoot the ball, shoot lights out, do your thing. That the time I want Tyler in the game the most is when they're at a deficit. Why? Because he's the one I trust the most on this team to score. Do I think that the first string guys need to do better at not making those large deficits? Absolutely. But I don't think Tyler fixes that, especially when you consider the fact that, number one, who are you taking out of that starting lineup? Because I don't think they're going to do very well coming off the bench. Number two, teams are going to be able to key in on Tyler Hero much better when they know he's going to be starting the game and they can block him right away. His stats will get worse, I am convinced. And he is going to start struggling because he's going to be playing almost solely against the first strings on the other team. Tyler Hero currently, I think, is perfect off the bench. I like the points he's bringing off the bench. Is there a conversation for him to start at some point in future seasons? Absolutely. Right now, I don't think is the time and place.
I agree with all of what you said, but I also want to add that for me, I don't want any more changes. I think we've gone through enough. And I understand this. Some people might say, well, if things are in flames anyway, now is the time to try something new. I don't agree. I see that. I see the other side of it. It's just for me, I would rather, if that's the one thing that is consistently working, I want to keep that consistently working.
Yes,
so
let's just wait for my knight in shining armor to come in, save the day. And I promise you that the moment
all of a sudden I just envisioned him in like a white suit on a white horse, just galloping towards you.
Victor? No, I just envisioned him as a thingamajig from The Masked Singer, because that was one of my favorite Victor Oladipo moments. Right now, it's funny when things go bad, then everyone starts talking about, oh, we need Victor back. Can't wait for Victor to come back. Man, I've been on this train this whole time. He's going to save the day. He's going to be the Spider-Man to our Marvel Cinematic Universe, where the Marvel Cinematic Universe was already doing well, but then Spider-Man came in and just took it to a whole other level. So
yeah, Spider-Man.
The fact that you're not going to watch No Way Home is so frustrating to me. And you won't get any of what is happening.
Why
but it will be the movie event of the year.
Although, isn't Benedict Cumberbatch in that?
Yes.
I love him.
What?
I loved him as Sherlock. Everybody loved him as
Sherlock. Be original.
I literally am sure. Like, that is my spirit animal. Like, his character, hating everyone, loved that.
Oh, okay, that part of it. I thought you
Yeah.
were talking about the intelligence. I'm like,
Oh,
no
I'm
shot.
way smarter than anyone gives me credit for. I just act stupid so that when I'm in a situation where I have to then seek revenge on everyone, everything goes burning down.
Okay, Sherlock.
It's fine. I hope from the bottom of my heart that you won't have to see that side. That's all.
The Sherlock side of you?
The burn everything down side.
So you're more of a Moriarty then, wouldn't you say?
Actually, yes. And I love him too.
But he's the bad guy.
I know. I love a good villain.
You want to just transition us? Because
Sure.
right now
supposedly, my not very
wait,
good
is it not
friends in
supposedly
Indiana.
with a B?
You want to tell everyone what you didn't know how to spell the other day, or are we keeping that offline?
Oh, verbiage?
Verbiage. There's an I in verbiage.
I didn't know there was an I in verbiage. It doesn't
I
sound
teach
like
you
there's
something new every day.
Excuse me. It's not pronounced verbiage.
No.
I've never seen it spelled out. I've heard the word. I know what it means.
You know, there's a B in subtle too.
Oh, why don't you do your taxes? Huh? You know how to do your taxes?
My tax lady does them, although she's going to have quite a disaster in her hands
Financial
this year.
literacy, lady.
I know how to save my money. Thank you. On to Indiana. My not so good friends in the next state over apparently are looking to unload some of their players, including Levert, Sabonis, and Turner. Not really sure what's going on there. Don't know what they thought they'd accomplish. Just dropping that. I'm very confused, but again, it's the Pacers.
Hasn't Turner always been a no because he doesn't get along with Bam?
Yeah, him and Bam hate each other.
Yeah, so that's
the other problem here is that we're clearly not going to put Kyle in any trade packages because that's Jimmy's guy. So who exactly are you offering up at this point?
Everybody's throwing in Duncan Robinson.
Kyle is on. I've seen a lot of.
I've seen some with Kyle.
Yeah.
If they want to make any trade, I mean, the first player that most of Twitter is going to talk about is Duncan Robinson.
Sure, but also I
think the first player that they're going to make available is probably Duncan Robinson.
But have they watched Duncan this year? Because
that's what I'm saying. Like, oh yeah, let's sell low. That's what we thought about Tyler over the summer. Now look at all the stupid hits.
I do like Levert. I'm not saying that I would see him in this lineup or that I know really how we would get him. I just in general like him in theory, but I don't think it's time to make any trades.
Levert's the one that's been hurt a lot, right?
He had I can't remember what discovered. Aneurysm, something really bad.
Right. But he's the one that's missed a good amount of time.
Yes, but multiple times. Nets, I believe.
Right. But that bled over into when he got traded to the Pacers. And I think he missed a good chunk of beginning.
No, he missed the good chunk because of the thing that was discovered during a physical.
Oh, okay.
Which was not an injury, but an ailment. I can't remember what it was. I'm not saying I want him. I'm just saying I do like him as a player. I feel
available, I'm all for it. I just think right now you got to worry about nothing more than availability. I know Sabonis has had his injury run, so that's a no.
To me, it's just I'm
not bringing in another guy that's going to miss time. I'm not extending our injury report, making a trade for as much crap as people want to give Duncan Robinson. Sure, he's not playing well. I think he's turning around these last couple games, and I'm happy that he's turning around. And I hope, for the sake of watching everyone's faces on literally everything, I hope that he just starts shooting lights out. And he's starting to shoot more than just from outside.
Yes, indeed.
Which I'm loving.
Mm-hmm.
But Duncan is there night in and night out. And on a team where players go down so quickly, and a player like Tyler, who has missed decent amounts of times in both of his regular seasons, Tyler goes down. What do you do then? You've got literally nothing. At least Duncan Robinson's going to be available. This urgency to put him in trade packages, unless I'm 100% sure that player is going to make us monumentally better. I'm not doing it.
No, me neither.
So also keep them.
Exactly. A few more things actually now that we're going around the league. Some interesting reports have come out about Dame Dalla, and I don't really know what I believe anymore. In theory, is it possible that Dame has been talking about wanting out? Sure. That organization isn't doing that great in terms of what's happening behind the scenes and even on the court. However, something about the reports seem a little fishy, and the fact that Dame keeps clapping back at them publicly, to me, if he was taking part in these reports, that would be quite
he
the
would
move.
look real stupid if he's like, y'all are crazy, I'm not doing that. And then it's like, pop, you got traded. I asked for a trade. Whoa, bro.
It'd be one thing if he kept quiet, right, and didn't say anything, then fine. But to publicly go against and start retweeting and quote tweeting, I don't know. To me, I'm just gonna call BS. Again, could he maybe have had discussion? Sure. But to phrase it as though it's like this imminent thing that's gonna I don't buy it.
And I think especially now with the McCollum news, which just came out today, which is that he has a collapsed right lung. Praise out to CJ McCollum. I don't see Damien Lillard going anywhere. I do see them trying to acquire players, but now that McCollum is out, what is the outgoing piece? So unfortunately, I think Dame is just stuck in this kind of purgatory with that team. And the more loud he is about fighting these claims and these reports, the worse he would look if they do happen. Now, did he have a chance to dunk at Damien Lillard? Should they make a run at him? Absolutely. Do I think Damien Lillard is a be-all, fix-all for this team? No, especially when you consider the fact that he is struggling this year pretty mightily, if I might add, at least by his standards. Obviously, by normal standards, he's still a great player, but by his standards, he's not doing great. So, you know, it kind of makes me a little hesitant, especially with all the things he's saying and what we'd have to give up in the trade and all this stuff. And
it's getting messy.
Yeah, I just look, if he comes out and is like, I want to go play for the Miami Heat, do what you got to do, go get it. Unless that happens, though, figure it out somewhere else, dude. Because I think right now you're just kind of stuck. He is, somebody said this on Twitter too. He is this year's Bradley Beal. Every time the Trailblazers lose a game and he throws a clipboard or throws down his Gatorade, whatever it is, people are like, oh, there goes Damian Lillard again asking for a trade. We're going to be on this cycle up until the trade deadline, and then nothing's going to happen. So I'm just going to choose to ignore it because I don't think anything's going to happen with it.
I am right there with you. The other interesting thing that has occurred is LeBron's COVID test and then being put in protocol and then isolating for 2 days and coming back. I don't know if you were as confused as I was when that all first came out, but I don't know what happened there. I understand that COVID is still something that is quite unknown in terms of protocols are changing all the time. And even with what the NBA, you know, different markets are doing different things. But he came out and he said that basically he had a false positive, but they're supposed to test right away after to make sure. You need to get 2 positives in a row. They didn't do that. They made him find his own way to Sacramento and then kept him in protocol for 2 days until he, I guess, said that he wanted to be tested again. And then all of a sudden they realized he's good to go and let him back. It was a very bizarre situation. And I'm not trying to insinuate that because it's LeBron, he should get special treatment, but I am a little bit like surprised that the league was so careless with LeBron out of all people.
What it is that the league doesn't want the Lakers to be good. And so they're trying to hold down LeBron James and make sure that
conspiracy theory.
Obviously, I don't believe that. I think it was some mixed up stuff with the tests. I don't think anybody handled it right, from LeBron James to whoever was doing his test to the league itself. I think it was a whole cluster. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of these moving forward.
DeMar is out now, and he liked LeBron's post, which got a lot of people confused because the thing is, if it happens to one player, there's a strong possibility that it has already or will happen to another. False positives happen with the amount they're getting tested. It's not unheard of. So I don't know. It was announced that he would be gone for, I think, the full 10 days, but I think LeBron was announced that as well before they then all of a sudden let him back after 2 or 3. So I think COVID's starting to show up again, which concerns me.
I think COVID is showing up again in a big way. I think it will continue to show up again in a big way, at least for the next several weeks. I think they got to figure out a way to handle it better. They got to figure out a way to handle it more similarly to how they did last year, because they found ways to do it last year. And I think they got kind of relaxed with it and were like, oh, it's going away and we're fine. And this is what happens.
I do think they're requiring boosters from what I remember now. Something came out over the weekend.
For the players?
For the players by some date. I can't remember what. And also apparently Canada is not letting any non-fully vaccinated into the country, which means that some players are not going to be able to play in Toronto.
Sucks, Kyrie. I just think, look, that's a good question. I think they're just not ready for it. I don't think they were ready for it to come back. I think they need to start getting very serious about it again. And it's going to look very poorly on the league if they start holding out players like LeBron and DeMar, who are then proven to not have been actual positives. Now, I agree with the league's worry on if a positive comes out, even if it is a false positive, I'm going to hold you out, because we don't want another breakout. We don't. And then they cancel games for a bunch of different teams, right? Because the Lakers can play the Wizards, and then the Wizards play the Bucks, and then the Bucks play somebody else, right? So I understand their thought process there. I just think they need to be quicker about if it is a false positive. You have ways of finding out sooner rather than later. So,
well, and I think the policy, what the problem that LeBron supposedly had was that in any other situation, the policy is to retest right after. And then I think wait a day and then do it again just for good measure, but they didn't even retest and they just were like, you're done. So I don't know what happened there.
Maybe it was a Clippers fan that decided to give LeBron's test. Who knows? Maybe Adam Silver himself has had enough of the LeBron James agenda. Maybe the Illuminati is involved. We may never know. But the one thing we do know, the Heat are rough to watch right now. And until Bam comes back, let me tell you, it will be excruciating.
I'm just taking it a day at a time. I'm going to just chill here and remain as level-headed and centered as humanly possible. But
unless she's talking about supposed lineups.
Enjoy tomorrow's game, y'all. Good night.